clash. Alpha Team.
Welcome! In this episode, we'll have a quick look at how damage fall-off works in Destiny, and analyze each of the primary weapons' range status, including sidearm. Recently, I have been looking at Destiny's range and made charts showing all of the weapons' damage drop-off. From this, I've confirmed the following. Max range, the distance the damage fall-off reaches its minimum value and stops reducing, as I had previously thought is unchanged by the weapon's range value. No matter how high the range value on your weapon, it will reach its lowest damage at the same distance as every other weapon in its class. All is not lost for your max range though. You can increase it with a zoom. Zoom, whether real or artificial, will increase your max range and can do so substantially. Zoom is a huge part of range and will increase both your minimum and maximum range. Having a higher range stat will increase the benefits that zoom offers substantially. Knowing this and using the charts, these are my analyses of the primary weapons, as per usual from highest rate of fire to lowest. Auto rifles see very little benefit from having high range unless you can also run fairly high zoom optics. Their damage drop off, although starting super early, has a very slow drop. This means you will lose very little damage even at quite far ranges. I would recommend not worrying too much about your range stat on these, but do try to use zoom, increasing scopes, or perks when you can. Overall, the number one thing for auto rifles is their recoil, so look for ones with high stability and recoil direction. As a quick note before we move on, I'd like to talk about rangefinder. Rangefinder will artificially increase your zoom, which means you get the range benefits of the zoom without the visual effects. It does this in a multiplicative fashion, which will offer you more benefit the higher base zoom your gun has. Pulse rifles. These weapons get quite a lot more from having a high range stat. The range fall-off start used to be such that it was just high enough to where you did not often have to worry about it. Now it sits exactly at the typical medium range engagement distance. With a low range pulse, you will now see damage fall-off occur often, but not as much on higher range ones. Before, I would almost never recommend range on these, and even now, with the change, I will still say stability is more important. This is because their max range, being so far out, causes your damage to fall off extremely slowly. As for zoom, increasing it will remove just about all your range worries, pushing your max range out to crazy distances and your minimum out a ton. Overall, pulse rifles have a great range as primary weapons go. Many do consider range important on pulse rifles, not for its damage benefits, but for its aim assist. I cannot say a whole lot about this since I have not tested aim assist, but in my opinion, you should simply stick to using the weapon at its intended range. Scouts are the king of range and will only see damage drop off at the most extreme ranges. These will see high benefits to the range with higher range or zoom, but it is completely unneeded. Even in PvE, you see few situations where a high range scout will be able to offer its benefits. Overall, as you would expect, you're best to focus on any other stat on your scout rifles. Hand cannons. These weapons are the ones with the most controversy over range. Here, I'm of course not going to talk about range's effects on accuracy, but as far as damage drop off, hand cannons don't really need high range stats. Hand cannons have a very low max range, which is their main problem, and it cannot be helped by the range stat. The only way to substantially increase your range is matching high range with rangefinder. Apart from rangefinder, I would not recommend to reduce range, but also not focus on maxing it out too much. Instead, just ensure you are engaging enemies at the correct distance. Sidearms are much like hand cannons in how their range works, and how you deal with them, as it has to do with range, is much the same. I would recommend increasing range when you can, but focus on other stats. Many consider range to be the number one thing for sidearms, but it really does not offer any substantial benefit unless you get rangefinder. What's your opinion on range for these different weapons? Do you agree with my deductions? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.